Hello and welcome back to my channel. So I'm inside of my Arctic Fox 992 truck camper. I purchased it about 2 months ago and I'm working on getting some of the pre-planning done for an inverter installation. I've taken the oven out. It's really easy to remove. Disconnect the propane line from right there, and then there's 4 screws, one here and then one at the back. So we've got 2 on each side, and then there's 2 down there below the oven door. So I pretty much had to start taking stuff apart to get an idea of where this big inverter will fit. It is a Victron Multiplus 2000. I removed that from another RV that I had it in. I don't know if I'm going to keep it or not. I'd really rather have a 3000, not because I need that much power, but a 3000 will fit in here better. So what we're going to do is relocate this transfer switch. This unit has an onboard generator, so that transfer switch selects between shore power and generator power. I'm going to move that over into this open space. It'll just fit between this black enclosure, which is the battery compartment, and this propane line. We've got about an inch of extra space. I have also already disconnected these 2 ground wires. They were connected into those lugs right there. I have rerouted them a little bit, and what we want to do is just square them up along this box and get them out of the way. And then this is some solar wiring. That is another batch of solar wiring that goes to an outside solar port for portable solar panels. I'll probably do something there to kind of tuck that up and rearrange it a little bit. So that's where we're at so far. Oh, I have also, back in that little port right there, I've disconnected the 2 cable TV wires. One of them was cable and one of them is satellite TV. And those are right here. So I disconnected those to reroute them a little bit and route them over here instead of over on this side. Test fit the transfer switch over here, and it doesn't quite fit due to these mounting feet. So I'm going to cut 2 of these mounting feet off. That makes quick work of that. And it's still kind of a tight fit, but it'll definitely work. I just need to get the switch down past these wires, and then we'll be good to go. These are the 2 ground wires that connect to those 2 big lugs right up there. Making a little bit more progress. That white cover right there was covering up these threaded propane connections, and that seals up those propane connections from the interior of the camper so that if there were a leak, it would leak outside. This is a little piece of coroplast, and there's a hole right there where the propane line goes down and out for the outside barbecue connection and my onboard propane generator. I thought that I was going to have to take the camper off the truck to access this from below, but this white sealant goop was actually a lot easier to remove than I expected. And so I was able to pick and peel that away from all 4 of these connections, or 3 connections, and then also put a putty knife underneath the cover and peel it up from the wood. It's also held in place with 4 screws. But the reason for doing all of that is because I need to get this propane line out and get a new one made. Right back here, that's where the inverter is going to lay, and this curve section right here is going to be right in the way of where the inverter mounts. The original location of the transfer switch was right here, and these little discolored spots were where some small spacers of plywood were glued down. They were glued and stapled, so I was able to chip those off with a pry bar. And now what I've done is taken some small pieces of lumber and built some spacers, because what I need to do is get the inverter high enough where it clears this propane line. So right there I have a 3/4 inch piece of pine that is measured at 10 inches long, 1 5/8 wide, so it's going to sit right up against this edge and it'll just clear that propane line. And then I have a 1/4 inch piece of plywood, and then I've got another spacer back here. So what I'm planning to do here is take another piece of 1 inch pine, actually it's 3/4 but it's called 1 inch, and stack that right there. I'm actually going to cut a bigger piece of 1/4 inch plywood to match this dimension, glue those three together, and then down here what I will do is build or cut a larger piece of 1 inch pine that will span from here right up at this edge all the way over to this little lip. The inverter is 20.5 inches long, and I think it comes to about right there. So that's the purpose of this 1/4 inch piece of plywood, is to raise this stack of lumber high enough where it comes out where it's even with this little lip right here, which is the bottom of our cabinet. It's this little lip right there. This should work out good, although it doesn't give me a lot of clearance between the bottom of the oven and the top of the inverter, so I may swap out my oven for a shallower depth oven, or it's actually shorter, 17 inches compared to the original oven's 21. So then I would just build another spacer right here to fill in that empty gap. Now I've got my platform dialed in for mounting the inverter to. I have a piece of plywood, which it actually matches the thickness of this plywood and this plywood. So the plywood's bolted down to this base piece, and then I have a piece of 3/4 inch thick pine screwed down to this plywood, and then on top of this I will put this piece of plywood which bridges the gap and will rest right here, and I'll screw that down. So the height of this and the height of this is very close to the same. This piece ends up being just a little bit higher than this, but it's so insignificant that it won't matter. The end goal here was so that I could have the inverter supported not just here, but also here. I've marked out measurements where my mounting piece will go. So that this is 3 inches from the wall, and then this line right here is 5 inches from the edge. So the inverter is 10 inches wide, and then this is 5 inches, so that's going to be the center point. And when you mount this plate, the top of the plate ends up being about 1.5 inches below the top of the inverter. So you don't want this plate mounted so close to your wall that you don't have room to slide the inverter down and then over that plate. I'll show you what I mean here. This is looking at the inverter backside. So I need to slide it up towards the wall and then down onto that mounting shoe, and then we'll just pull on the two openings here to make sure that it's fully seated. Yep, it's locked in place. So I'm doing that just to show you what it takes to get this mounted. So I'll go ahead and pull the inverter out, because this other plate, wooden board right here, I need to attach that. Hello, welcome back to my channel. So I'm inside my Arctic Fox 992 truck camper and I'm working on getting